Hello everyone, and welcome to this session on Community Perspectives on CBPR, Principles and Core Values. I'm Ella Green Moten, a community academic bridge at the Center for Public Health and Community Genomics at the School of Public Health at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. So let me tell you just a little bit about myself. I had a very humble beginning. I am African American, as you can see, female, but I started out as part of a sharecroppers family from a southern plantation in the Mississippi Delta. I am a Christian. I'm very spiritual. I am very much engaged in community engagement and civil rights, social justice, equity, ethics, and policy. I have actually combined many of those attributes with my work within the academy. I have the good fortune of being engaged as a community academic bridge, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means later. A community academic partnership development. I work within community-based public health, community-based participatory research, community education, and some of the areas of research that I have been focused on is youth violence prevention, community genomics, infant mortality. I've also been engaged in helping to create a cultural competence curriculum at the University of Michigan, Flint, and I also served as an adjunct instructor there. So I'll talk to you a little bit today about many issues from a community perspective, but just wanted to start out with a couple of hard facts. So historically, research has rarely directly benefited and sometimes actually harmed the communities involved. Research excluded affected communities from influence over the research process. Research resulted in understandable distrust or the reluctance to practice in research. Research has been labeled by many communities as parachute, helicopter, or drive-by research. And finally, research has led to interventions that are not tailored to the concerns and cultures of participants and focus narrowly on individual behavior change. And as a result, an interest in community-based participatory research grew, creating a growing need and demand for educational resources that help build the knowledge and skills needed to develop and sustain effective CBPR partnerships. And just so that we understand exactly what we're talking about, when I say CBPR, I'm talking about a collaborative approach to research that equitably involves all partners in the research process and recognizes the unique strengths that each brings. CBPR begins with a research topic of interest to the community with the aim of combining knowledge and action for social change to improve community health and eliminate health disparities. Now this is a definition that comes from the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, and it's really important in this presentation because Kellogg was very instrumental in providing the foundation for many of the partnerships that I will be talking about today, and especially the one that I will highlight. So I also want to share some thoughts on engagement, and this is taken from information that the Community Campus Partnerships for Health created. Engagement is an investment in lasting relationships between institutions and communities. These relationships influence, shape, and promote the success of both the institution and the community. So now I want to talk a little bit more about the principles of partnership. And there are many different types of principles that we will be discussing, but I need you to understand just how important it is to community folk to really create the partnership. And again, when I talk about community, I'm talking about grassroots folk. I'm talking about those people who are usually studied. So, according to CCPH Board of Directors in 1998 and 2006, partnerships form to serve a specific purpose and may take on new goals over time. Partners have agreed upon missions, values, goals, measurable outcomes, and accountability for the partnership. The relationship between partners is characterized by mutual trust, respect, genuineness, and commitment. The partnership builds upon identified strengths and access, but also works to address needs and increase capacity for all partners. The partnership balances power among partners and enables resources among partners to be shared. Partners make clear and open communication an ongoing priority by striving to understand each other's needs and self-interests and developing a common language. Principles and processes for the partnership are established with the input and agreement of all partners, especially the decision-making and conflict resolution. There is feedback among all stakeholders in the partnership with the goal of continuously improving the partnership and its outcomes. Partners share the benefits of the partnership's accomplishments. Partnerships can dissolve and need to plan a process for closure, and I'll share a little bit more about that dissolving process. So from a community perspective, and as a grassroots community partner, I firmly believe that taking the time to understand the overall language and concepts of principles of not only partnerships, but principles of engagement and principles of CBPR is paramount during the lifespan of the engagement. So as we think about the principles of partnership and the natural next steps in creating a partnership, the first thing I would think about is creating the space or developing that partnership. And in order to do that, we actually look again at the principles and the core values. We look at elements of collaboration. And those elements of collaboration include cultural competence. And I use cultural competence a lot because I firmly believe that while cultural humility is important, cultural competence is important as well. And we stress the fact that we're not talking about a destination, we're talking about a journey. So it's important to work on cultural competence. Also communication, trust and respect, expectations of all partners, decision making, conflict resolution, and appreciation and celebration. The next step would be owning the space or the implementation phase. And during this phase, you're identifying other partners. You're looking around to say who is not at the table. You're identifying potential projects. You're identifying funding sources. You're considering the funding announcement. There's a collaborative proposal writing. You're developing the project, and that development includes the implementation of the CBPR project, the dissemination, and the translation, which results into policy. The next step would be securing the space or sustainability. And when you think about sustainability, you have to think about building capacity. And we're talking about building capacity not just for the academic institution, but also building capacity for the community that's engaged. We want to look at using partnership evaluations. We need to know how we're doing. If we're not doing well, it needs to be discovered or paid attention to early. We need to be planning for the sustainability. And most of us would have to admit, if you think about it, sustainability doesn't just happen. You really have to work at it. There should be a criteria for determining which efforts to continue and when to just let go. And sustaining long-term funding has to be a priority. The final step would be celebrating the space. And we know from experience that celebrating should include all partners. So some of the other partnership experiences that I'd like to share with you are starting from way back in 1995, the McCree North Advisory Board, the Broome Team, the Community-Based Public Health Caucus, the National Community-Based Organization Network, Community-Based Organization Partners Incorporated, the Prevention Research Center Community Board, which I'm going to talk more about a little bit later, the National Community Committee, the Community Campus Partnerships for Health Board of Directors, the American Public Health Association's Executive Board, the Flint Community Schools Board of Education, the Michigan Blood Spots Community Values Advisory Board, the Genesee County Community Resource Department Advisory Board, the Flint Resilience Coordination Team, and finally the Healthy Flint Research Coordination Center. I wanted to include this slide because it actually says in very few words how we need to think about who we are and what we do, and how important it is to do just what this slide says, connecting our past, our present, and our future. So the slide before us showed a picture of the Sankofa bird. The Sankofa bird is flying forward while looking backward with an egg in its mouth. The egg symbolizes the future. We must go back and reclaim our past so we can move forward, so we understand why and how we came to be who we are today. And that's from a West African saying. So thank you very much for your time. I hope I said something that would be encouraging for you starting out on new partnerships and understanding that this is going to take time. Thanks to the Engaged for Equity partners, and a special thanks to the other community partners. Thank you.